Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching.
Hello all. Well, come houseboy, you may come. Come and deliver your lady's water.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome to the Kindred UMC live show, coming to you not live, but pre-recorded from my front room, aka Kindred Studio A. My name is Chris Hayden, I am the pastor.
Hi, I'm Courtney Young, I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Kindred UMC.
You're the what?
It gets shorter. It gets shorter every time. I'm the Director of Community Engagement. See?
Wow, that was
It's
impressive.
like a signature. You start I start with a C, and then then a big old H, and then
I'm Preston, and I'm baffled. You sent me like back to home life. Like you sound like
What?
my sisters. Mom, I have a question for you. And then my mom would say, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna jump right into it. We're continuing with our series on InVulnerable, and it is not invulnerable, but invulnerable, like getting into vulnerability. And we are going to look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. We already tried this once and I couldn't remember which verses it was, and I had to read the whole stinking chapter just to figure out where I was quoting from. So that's why we're doing it again. So I'm going to pretend to ask you a bunch of questions that you haven't already answered, okay? So first of all, does anyone know what an epistle is?
A letter.
What kind of letter? Because letter has two meanings.
Definitely not omega or alpha.
Yeah, definitely not.
Not a
Yeah,
symbol.
like a written letter.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why we called them a letter, actually. Why would we use that word for those two very similar things?
It's like we use emojis now.
It would be like if we
it.
called all dogs and cats dogs. Like they're very different things.
That's what we do.
Anyway,
That's what our brain does.
also, who knows who wrote 2 Corinthians?
Paul.
Paul.
You watch it over there.
Ask and you shall receive.
And who was Paul writing this letter to?
The Church of Corinth.
Or whom, I should say. Whom? Well, yes, the Church of Corinth. Yes, so Paul started a church in the city of Corinth, a Roman city, and he established it and then left and then would correspond with them and come and visit. And that's kind of what Paul did after Jesus ascended. He walked around and traveled everywhere and started a bunch of churches. And that's why we have the church today. So in this particular letter, Paul is writing them. One of the concerns in the letter is about the church beginning to question Paul's authority and beginning to they're starting to follow other apostles, other teachers, and other leaders, and Paul's saying, "Hey, whoa, no, stick with what I taught you. That's what the church is. That's who Jesus is. Don't follow these other people." And then he gets on this tangent about boasting, and he starts to talk about if anyone could boast, because Paul was a pretty serious Jewish official before he became the starter of the church, before he became an apostle. And so he starts talking about hey man, if anybody could boast in things about how faithful and how religious you are, it would be me, but I'm not gonna do that. And then he goes on and boasts about all the things he could boast about. And then he says, but none of that matters. That's not the point. And then he gets into this thing where he starts to talk about his weaknesses, and he boasts about he has a physical infirmity. We don't know what it is, but let's just, who knows?
I was blind.
No, well, he was blinded, but then he received his sight back, and that's kind of his calling story.
It's I have retinal failure.
Yeah, but he has we don't know what it is, but he has some kind of, maybe it's a bum knee or something, but something that causes him pain, something that's painful. And then he starts to boast in his weakness. He starts to boast about how frail he is, and he's making this point that we find in chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, I can say confidently. So he's talking about his pain, and he says that, in fact, I'll go back to 8 because it ties in. He's talking about him praying for God to fix this and God not fixing it. So verse 8, 3 times I appealed to the Lord about this infirmity, this thorn in his side, so to speak. 3 times I appealed to the Lord about this, that it would leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. So I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities for the sake of Christ. For whenever I am weak, then I am strong. What do you make of that first?
It reminds me of, I was reading an Instagram post last night dedicated to Enneagram Type 2s. And
Which is? What's an Enneagram?
The Enneagram is...
We don't have the time, Courtney.
Okay, well, you asked the question.
It's time to go to the bathroom and grab
Anyway, I was reading a post that was dedicated to Enneagram Type 2s.
The helper-supporter type.
Yes, and one of the things that it said is that Enneagram Type 2s tend to run away from this idea of like anything messy, whether that's messy emotions, whether that's messy experiences, because they feel like it pushes other people away, when in fact messiness actually creates room for intimacy, and that is what that reminds me of.
I very wholeheartedly agree with that.
Don't you like The Bachelor though? Maybe like real life mess.
Yeah, the Bachelor is fake mess.
You are obsessed with mess. But seeing it from
like other people's mess, though.
Okay, so seeing it from like the bleachers.
There's nothing really vulnerable about other people's mess.
No, I was talking about like not drama mess, like uncomfortable, like vulnerable, I guess.
Okay, so to me, that the difference would be in that, as best I can tell, is like, yeah, other people's mess on display is fine, especially strangers, because who cares? And it's
right, but I don't like mine.
My mess on display, in like,
makes me nervous because it pushes people away, when in fact the opposite is true.
Right.
It's this idea that messiness, my own messiness, creates room and space for intimacy and connection.
That also makes me think, this is such a silly thing, but it's like a dad to son lesson that I had. My dad, I remember him telling me something along the lines of, you know, the prettiest girl in the room, you know, the girl that all the guys want to dance with, or, you know, this is kind of old fashioned, he's an older guy. And he's like, you need to go up and ask that girl to dance. And here's why. The appearance of perfection prevents anyone from going up and asking her to dance. The fact that she is attractive and pretty and has like the popular status or whatever, you know, whatever high school equivalent you can apply to that now, is the thing that actually separates her from everybody. And you like, even if you are not like trying to like date her, you should go and ask her to dance because she needs it. And I was like, that's kind of actually brilliant, and also a good way to dance with pretty girls.
That's it.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think there is something about the. So first of all, let's talk about the human tendency to boast. Where does that come from? To want to accentuate and lift up our strengths and our intelligence and our, you know, all the qualities that maybe we don't believe we have, but we want people to think we have.
I'll say peacocking with a tab or like a dash under it. So peacocking while covering, like you're covering up something else to hide.
Yeah.
Like hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, I think there's something to. I tend to lean with the last thing you said more. I think there's something about hiding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's a lot of that going on. And peacocking is a good way to hide. Like, it's like, don't look over here, look at this.
Well, I mean, literally the dance thing you just said. Like, obviously she's fine in life, so what am I going to do to dance with her? To do the jitterbug or whatever the kids are doing now.
I believe it's the swing dancing.
Oh. No, it's the TikTok dances. There's tutorials.
Well, that's
you can't do that with anyone.
Yeah, you can. Are you kidding me?
You do it with your phone. Who is someone now?
You do it with your best friend, the phone.
It's better when you do it in groups.
Oh.
All right.
But the hiding in plain, that terrifies me.
Say more about it. How do you mean?
I don't want to. It's like I don't know, it's like watching the movie and the villain the whole time is the best friend. Or is the mom, or like someone you're like, oh, I trusted you the whole time, and 2.5 hours in, now I know.
God, it's you, Stan?
You have been.
Yeah.
You've been. It's I don't know. It's a trust. I think a trust issue thing with me, big time.
Yeah, I think there's something more painful about that, which would create more fear around it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so if this boasting thing, and if the presentation of a not quite real person, okay, so here's an analogy I want to talk about. There's a thing in humanity, in our brains, called the uncanny valley. And it applies to like any type of artificial representation of a person. So like we have like robots now. And they can, or like robot voices, or CGI animation on faces and things like that. And when our brains see something that's almost human but not quite human, most people have a psychological reaction that's akin to disgust or discomfort or distrust and disconnection. Whatever it is, it's like, I want to get away from that. Similar to like if you smell something foul, you have a nauseous reaction. You're like, ooh, don't eat that. It's an evolutionary thing we've designed to know when someone's being real or not. And like, no offense to anybody who likes them, but like I've taken a lot of joy out of Your Mom's House podcast poking fun at Garth Brooks for all of his social media posts. So Dr. Drew, who is an actual physician and does a show about like sexual health questions and things like that, he took a look at some of the Garth Brooks postings that they were making fun of, and he was like, and he applied uncanny valley to it. There's something going on here about the way this man is presenting himself that's it's not authentic. It's like there's not a sense of empathy. There's not a sense of connection. He's not acting human. He's acting the way he thinks a human should act, kind of a thing. And it does. And like, if you go and watch those videos, for most people, it creates like a weird, now, all of that to say, I think that's what's going on in this idea of boasting or presenting, or forget the word boasting literally, but like the idea of presenting a better version of yourself.
Yeah, leave it to a church person to do that.
We're pretty dang, well, I wouldn't even say we're good at it. Most of the world's caught on by now, and they're like, I don't want to go near you people. You're terrible.
Y'all are the worst.
Yeah, but
more prevalent than not.
People in the church tend to cooperate with those types of behaviors, versus what is actually leads to stronger connection. And I think it has something to do with that phenomenon in our brains. When you see somebody who is too perfect or who appears to be too perfect, something in you doesn't connect with them. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah, that's where like backtalk and scorn and gossip comes from.
Yeah. Talking behind people's backs.
Yeah,
and
a red
like,
suit to church. Who does he think he is? What's going on here?
Red.
Yeah.
It's not Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's.
Do you ever have old guys in your church wear red on Valentine's Day?
Every single one of them.
Yeah, that's the move. That's the
pink.
move to go with, man.
Oh, your parts on your bow tie. Yeah?
Married and just happy to peacock a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna be that old man.
Okay. It's very sad because it's lost somewhere. I guess a long time ago.
So there's two versions. Because I would say I am also a peacocker. I like to get dressed up when I go out. And I like to, but there is something about, I like it because I like it. Because I like the way I look and I like feeling that way. And that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with like getting dressed up or putting on makeup or, doing your hair well, like whatever, do what you like. But there becomes like a threshold that we cross. And it certainly happens in the way we present ourselves on social media or in social situations, like just in general, like in-person situations, where you start to try and create a false narrative about yourself. And there's a difference between like, I like the way I look and I want people to think something, I want to look richer than I am or something like that. Or I want to look sexier than I am or more attractive. Like there's something, we cross a thread and it seems so natural that that's going to lead to more connection.
Yeah.
That people are going to believe that lie and come towards us. And it's the exact opposite.
And if you feel attacked right now, it's because you are being attacked, because everyone does this.
Yeah. I wouldn't say attacked, but if this pinches a little, it's probably because you're human and you do that.
Yeah, my hands are
like
sweating.
we all do this. This is what we do. We try and I remember, especially when I was like in high school, college age years, I remember like feeling very guilty about lying. I felt like I was a liar. And I wasn't like going around telling lies. I wasn't like, yeah, I had cereal for breakfast. I didn't have breakfast at all. Like it wasn't like lying. I wasn't just like randomly lying. But I remember feeling like I was just kind of constantly pretending things were true that weren't true and feeling very guilty about that lie. People inherently can pick up on those things. And the idea that we would boast about ourselves is a pitfall. It's a trap that we can fall into. And ironically, we worship a crucified God. We worship a God who defeated death by dying. We worship a God who saved the world by losing. Like that's the God we worship. In a very similar sense, when our natural instincts tell us to boast or peacock or create a false narrative about ourselves, in fact, the opposite thing is true. And this is ancient wisdom. This is wisdom that's passed on. I mean, like this is a 2,000-year-old letter. It even goes back further. Themes like this are in the Old Testament. Themes like this are in ancient stories, Gilgamesh. Like themes like this have been around humanity forever, trying to teach this just completely unnatural wisdom, which is don't boast, confess. Like don't focus on the strengths you don't have and try to get people to believe things about you that aren't true or think more highly of yourself than you ought to. Instead, be honest and vulnerable. Find ways to speak the truth even when you are afraid that it's going to result in ridicule, even when you're afraid that it's going to result in shame. Now, there's a balance here. You don't want to like go to a new party with new friends and like overshare and make everybody uncomfortable. Like that's probably going to be a difficult thing. But if you really are wanting to connect with somebody, focus on vulnerability. Focus on boast in your weakness, because in your weakness, you are strong.
I have two things. The uncanny valley has been tugging like wolf in sheep's clothing for me to say, like this weird.
Yeah. Even if you're not a wolf in sheep's clothing, it is a.
No, right.
There's like an evolutionary trigger that thinks you might be,
and
so I
leads
stay
to
away.
This othering word we've thrown around a few times, like seeing something that's just a little off and not accepting into the group, like pushing away, and you and others around you to bring you away from that other. So my other thing was, I played at a Catholic church this morning. And there's the confession part where it's more of a moment of silence to kind of think. I've always thought as a kid, like confess is such a harsh thing, and then
it comes with a lot of connotations.
Yeah.
That are
so I've always
unhealthy.
wanted to say, like, think if it's weird to you and you have some kind of like feeling about the word confess, think of it like a dress, since it rhymes. It's also fun. So like
that means it's true.
Yeah,
because it rhymes.
Yeah. But it's so like,
I really like that.
It's
like,
just charged, and it
instead
feels like
of
you're
confess,
going,
think about address.
Yeah,
like turn and face.
Yeah,
and not and when I say confess, also, I don't even necessarily mean to other people.
Because that's what it implies. It feels like, okay, it's me against you.
Now, I think there is something powerful about finding a trustworthy person who can keep confidence and saying something out loud to them. I think there's like a psychological power in that. But if you don't feel comfortable and you can't find that person, or you're not ready to trust somebody in that level, just simply confessing it to yourself, like acknowledging within yourself, like, oh man, I really do have a problem here.
I can't change a tire.
I never learned to change a tire. I can't believe I got to 33 years old and never learned to change it. But that's the first step to beginning a healing and growing process, is actually, instead of confessing, let's say, addressing it, like actually turning to face it and naming it. And that's also an ancient tradition, like name the beast. If you know the name of the beast, then you have power over the beast. Like, and anyway, I could go on and on about ancient stories that have that in them, because I love ancient stories. But there's a lot of power in, don't focus on your strengths, name and address your weaknesses, and you will find yourself connecting with not only yourself, but with others around you in a new and profound way. So, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.